What's up, swashbucklers? Today's show is sponsored by Southern Yellow Pine Publishing, publishers of the Panther Bay Pirate series by S.R. Staley. Man, there's a lot of P's in that sentence. Listen, you gotta check out these books. It's about an escaped slave named Isabella, and she becomes the captain of a huge pirate ship. There is lots of good swordplay. There's a great plot. It's period correct. It's got a strong female lead character. You can't beat it. There's two books, The Pirate of Panther Bay, and the second one is called Tortuga Bay. You can check it out now. Very easy. Go to underthecrossbones.com/panther. Check it out. Raise the sails! Turn it up, swashbucklers! You're listening to Under the Crossbones, episode number 25. My name is Phil Johnson. I am your host for the show. Episode number 25. The show is now old enough to rent a car. I'm so happy about that. Hey, listen, if you want to get all the show notes for this show, you go to underthecrossbones.com/025. That will give you everything that we're going to be talking about in this show. And I will tell you, there's a lot we're talking about in this show. There is some good stuff today. By the way, if you've been leaving the iTunes reviews, thank you very much. If you haven't been leaving the iTunes reviews, what's taking you so long? Go leave an iTunes review. It's nice. It helps the show get more popular. I want it to be more popular. You want it to be more popular. Go leave an iTunes review. Be a nice person like that. It only takes you like 30 seconds. So, my guest on the show today, his name is Jim Byrkit, okay? Maybe not a name you're familiar with, but you are familiar with his work. I guarantee it. Jim Byrkit is the concept artist for the first three Pirates of the Caribbean movies. He's also the director of a Pirates of the Caribbean short called Wedlocked that, if you haven't seen it, is super funny. Make sure I'll have a link to it in the show notes, /025. You can check out Wedlocked. It's like 10 minutes long. Very, very funny Pirates of the Caribbean short with the cast of the movie in it. He ain't sleeping on this one. This is full on. He's also one of the writers on the movie Rango, the Johnny Depp animated, he's a lizard in a western town kind of movie. So we talk a little bit about that too. It's not piratey, but who cares? It's fun. It's awesome. So Jim Byrkit is my guest today. You are totally going to dig this interview. We had a really great talk, and it's really fun. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned. Like there's going to be a commercial break. It's not radio, right? This is a podcast. That's why you're listening, is to hear the interview. I don't know why I said that. That's okay. We're going to keep going. So lots of good pirate stuff happening this week, right? Did you catch the new season of Black Sails? I have to get Stars to be a sponsor of this show. I really do. I sat down. I fought with my Comcast internet connection, and I fought with my Chromecast. And I just Saturday. I kind of had a little meltdown fighting between Comcast and Blue Cross. They were both driving me insane. And I sat down to watch Black Sails to relax a little bit, and then my Comcast didn't work. Anyway, I did get to it, finally. Sunday night, I watched the first episode of Black Sails. I thought it was really good. Personally, I dug it. One little thing that was irritating me, they kept showing flashes of Captain Flint's flag, his Jolly Roger, and I couldn't see exactly what was on it. And it looks like it may be Jack Rackham's flag. So maybe he's got Jack Rackham's ship, I think, but I'm not sure. They didn't give us a good enough close look at it, but we'll all be watching. It'll come up. If you know anybody at Stars in their marketing department, tell them they should be a sponsor of this show, because we'll probably talk about it a lot. Also, this weekend, if you're in Florida, January the 29th to the 30th, the big Gasparilla Pirate Fest. It's one of the biggest in the country. I won't be there because I couldn't afford to fly to Florida. That's a tongue twister. I didn't know that. You should do that if you're trying to make your mouth work, which mine doesn't always. If you're going to Gasparilla, though, I want to hear about what you're doing there. And I want to hear all about the festival and stuff. And so if you would like to leave me a trip report that I might play in this show, call 408-599-2733. Again, that's 408-599-2733. Just leave me a voicemail there. Tell me all about your experience at the Gasparilla Fest. Leave me your name in there so I know who you are. And if it's cool, I will play it in the show next week or whenever you get it to me. All right? Because I want to start doing trip reviews. I think that'd be fun. So, now this weekend, I got a little seaside action myself out here in California after my mental breakdown Saturday between Comcast and Blue Cross, because that's what those two companies specialize in, mental breakdowns. Sunday, my girlfriend said, let's get you out of the house. And so we went and spent the day in Monterey, California. right there on the Monterey Bay. It's beautiful. We stood downwind of the harbor seals so we couldn't smell them, and we ate lots of clam chowder. And there's a new little shop on Cannery Row there that specializes in hot sauces. And I for my entire childhood, most of my young adult life, I was not a spicy food person. And when I started dating my girlfriend is from Singapore, and she said, "Look, if we're gonna do this, you're gonna have to learn how to eat spicy foods." So she got me into Singaporean food and Thai food and all that kind of stuff. And like we go to a Thai food restaurant and they go, "Oh, do you want it mild or medium?" And we go, "No, spicy." And then they look at me like, "I don't know, he's white." And we go, "No, bring it on." And we sweat and all that. And it's fun. You get those endorphins rolling, right? So we go into this little hot sauce shop, and they have everything out for samples. They got buckets of like tortilla chips, and you can sample all the hot sauces and salsas and things like that. And so we tried a few of them, kind of the medium ones. We're like, "Oh yeah, these are tasty. It's cool." And then we get to one it says extra, extra, extra hot. It's a salsa, extra, extra, extra hot. Oh my God, don't taste it. Don't taste this. So of course everybody tastes that one, right? You can't not. And I got I don't know, a micrometer of salsa on a chip, a tiny, tiny, tiny dribble of this salsa on a chip, and it burned all the way down. Like I could feel it in my chest burning. Tiny droplet of this stuff. I'm not exactly sure what kind of peppers were in it. It didn't specify on the label. Holy hell, was it hot? Oh my gosh. It took about 15 minutes before it started to subside, which was exactly the time that I went around for another taste of a different one. And because they had a Scoville chart of the hot peppers. And if you're a hot pepper person, you know what a Scoville chart is, but it's basically a chart of how hot the different kind of peppers are, right? And so the next one I wanted to try was the Trinidad Moruga scorpion pepper. So I found one of the hot sauces that had that pepper in it. This is like the second to the highest. And I tried that one, and it was, again, yeah, I accidentally got some on my lips. Still this morning, my upper lip burning just a little bit. And we're talking days later at this point. So it was really, really freaking spicy. At that point, I was done. There was one more higher on the chart that I was going to go to. There's a pepper called the Carolina Reaper, which that doesn't even sound like something you should eat. That doesn't even sound like something you should look at, frankly. Like, it seems dangerous. And so I could not get to the Carolina Reaper. That was the one. So next time I go to Monterey, I will put myself through that pain, and I will eat some Carolina Reaper hot sauce, and I'll report back to you. And it will probably sound like, because I won't be able to feel my lips or my tongue at that point. So it was, but it was an enjoyable weekend. Beautiful Monterey. If you're listening from out on the East Coast, I hope you weren't buried under 3 feet of snow. The pictures from New York were incredible. And I was just standing next to the Monterey Bay yesterday going, yep, that's why I don't live in New York. So I hope you guys out on the East Coast are all totally cool and okay. And I hope you're good. So I got some shows coming up. I took the weekend off from shows this past weekend, but I will be this week. I will be on Thursday, January the 28th. I'll be doing a set at Cobb's Comedy Club in San Francisco, California. If you'd like to come out for that, I actually have a guest list for that one. I can get you in for free, skip the cover charge, all that kind of good stuff. Just go to undercrossbones.com and get in touch with me there, and I'll hook you up with the guest list for Cobb's on January 28th. After that, let's see, February 3rd, I'll be at Masses in Walnut Creek, headlining. February 11th, Downtown Theater, Fairfield, California, headlining. The 12th, which I think is a Friday, I'll be at the Queen Bean in Modesto. And that one is, I think I'm headlining that show. That is a benefit for the Central Valley Walk Now for Autism Speaks charity. And so we're going to be raising money for the autistic kids at the Queen Bean in Modesto, California on February 12th. Come out for that, because if you don't, you're either too far away or you're a horrible person. That's all I'm saying. On the 13th, Saturday the 13th, I will be at the Mad Cow in Murphy's, California. That's a brand new show they got out there. It should be great, great fun. This will be the second one. I heard the first one was standing room only, so I'll be headlining the second one. It'll be great. And then for my friends up in Canada, my swashbucklers in the Great White North, I will be in the Edmonton, Canada area doing a bunch of shows the 18th through the 27th of February. I know I'm doing the Comedy Factory the 18th through the 20th, and somewhere in Leduc I think I'm pronouncing that right. Somewhere in Leduc on the following Wednesday, and then the other dates are getting filled in by the guy that booked me for it. So all sorts of cool stuff. If you want to find out any of my tour dates, you can just go to underthecrossbones.com and slap the button. Just slap the tour dates button. Maybe click it with your mouse instead, because slapping your screen doesn't always work all that well unless you're on a cell phone. In that case, slap away. So look, are you enjoying the show? I know I'm rambling, right? We're going to get to the interview in a second. But if you are enjoying Under the Crossbones as a whole, as an event in your life, as a weekly event in your life, I hope that you will support the show a little bit. And you can do that easily by going to underthecrossbones.com/support. And there's a little PayPal donate button. You can just throw just a donation at us. That's cool. There's an Amazon banner. If you click that Amazon banner and you go buy yourself a present, it doesn't cost you anything extra, but I get a little piece on the back end of that, and that helps the show as well. And you can also be a sponsor of the show, which is super fun and super cheap, like Yellow Pine Publishing. Southern Yellow Pine Publishing and S.R. Staley, they've been sponsoring the show, and they'll tell you it's cheap and it's effective. So you can go there. It's underthecrossbones.com/support if you're digging the show. All right, let's get into my interview with director Jim Byrkit. Here we go. You are a Hollywood guy that typically does a lot of different things, as most Hollywood people have to do these days. When somebody asks you what you do, what do you tell them?
I am a director. That is what I do. That is my passion, and I end up having to do a lot of other things to fulfill my directing habit.
Nice. Yeah, as we all do. We all go, what do you do? I do this, and then I do 8,000 other things too.
That's exactly right, yeah.
So the way that I discovered you actually was through the Wedlocked short, which is hilarious. It's so well done. I had never seen it before for some reason. I'm not quite sure how I missed it. But tell me a little bit about that, and I want to hear how it all came together.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, I was on set a lot during the third movie because Gore had brought me in. I had done storyboards for the first three movies, but usually I get finished before the bulk of the shooting is done. You know, I step away. But in this case, I was around a lot because we were working on the map, the what we originally called the Chinese map, and then got renamed the Saofang map, and now is named something else.
Okay.
But the big the charts to the end of the world was something that I created. Those, the discs, the interlocking discs that I created with the prop designer, Chris Peck. So I was on set a lot, and also helping Chris Peck with the code book, that big, huge book in Shipwreck Cove. We were creating pages and pages of just crazy imagery and recipes for rum drinks and stuff like that. So I would see Gore on set, and he would jokingly say every day, like, why isn't Jim Byrkit shooting a movie on this set when we're not shooting a movie here? And I started saying, yeah, that's a great idea, because this is an amazing set here. We should just write something that makes use of this amazing place. And one of the producers overheard this and took Gore seriously and thought, oh, okay, yeah, God, good. Jim Byrkit, shoot a movie here. All right. That. And so it was kind of up to me to then wrangle all the elements. I had to go talk to the writers. I had to talk to Terry and Ted and say, can you write me something? And talk to the actors and talk to the costume designer and talk to the art director and talk to everybody and see if they would sort of lend their craft so that we could do this little extra. And nobody quite knew what it would be, but I just kept saying, it'll be like one of those bonus things, on the DVD box set. That's all I could think of. And luckily, it just kind of all came together in less than a month. I also had the help of Susan Lee Smith, who was sort of working for Ted and Terry as a assistant, but more like a creative sounding board person. And Susan and I actually joined forces and got this thing off the ground.
Okay. And so it's what was it, about a 10-minute short? I just watched it again earlier today. How did you come to the idea? Did you originally think, we're going to do something from the ride that's not in the movies? Or how did you come to doing the wench auction?
That was Ted and Terry's idea.
Okay.
When I pitched them the idea of the short, they, for some reason, instantly gravitated toward using the wenches because they knew that Vanessa Branch and Lauren Marr were actually pretty good actors, or pretty great actresses, and nobody knew this because everyone just thought, oh, they're just like cute extras, but they're actually incredibly funny performers and really smart. So they knew that they could handle a whole story about just the wenches, and so we kind of came up with this auction idea very fast, based on the ride, and I just kept sort of pushing it. I said, it just has to get crazy. It just has to sort of build to a frenzy. And at one point, I think like it became a courtroom. It started out as an auction, but then became a mock trial. And like there are all these different versions of it. But I guess, really it was Ted and Terry had the creative spark to settle on what the topic would be, and knowing that there were people that loved the ride so much that they were craving more references to this memory they had from childhood.
Sure, yeah, absolutely, and that's one of the main scenes in the ride, and one that I cannot figure out how it hasn't gotten the axe yet. After all the PC changes they made to that ride over the last few years.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that scene's still in there. I mean, I like it. I think they should have kept all the other stuff too, but I can't figure out how it's still in there. I think it's amazing. And so how long did it take to actually film the short?
I think we had 3 days. We had to work very quickly because they were going to dismantle the set. They were finished shooting on that particular set, and it was a giant stage, right there on the lot, and that Shipwreck Cove set is just mammoth.
Yeah,
and they needed the space because they were going to shoot Ella Enchanted, I think.
Oh, okay.
No, not Ella Enchanted. Enchanted.
Oh,
the other movie, Enchanted.
Right.
The Amy Adams movie. And so the clock was ticking. Like if we didn't shoot it by the end of this certain week, they were going to destroy every last piece of the set. And so we had this big countdown clock, just showing how many seconds left every day.
Yeah, that's as filmmaking under pressure, I always think is an interesting thing. And it's always under pressure, but I think with something like that, you can really squeeze some good, interesting material out because you're not overthinking it.
Everything about it was like that. We just had so limited resources, and everybody was doing it as a favor. And so just every day was 15 new problems. All of a sudden we'd get told, oh, you can't shoot on 35 millimeter.
Oh.
And then the next day, oh, you can't use these certain costumes or this certain part of the set or this certain thing that you thought you were going to use. And we would just have to completely improvise and think of another way. We ended up using 16 millimeter film and creating our own backdrops and having to adjust the script to make use of what was actually there.
Yeah. Well, the mother of invention, right?
It was great. And I have to say, I was just blessed by having such good people on board that were willing to roll with it, because you think that it's this like very corporate thing, but it's not. It's just people that love movie making and love pirates. So it's like a group of friends kind of making an independent film that just happens to be under the Disney banner.
Sure. And I find in the very little film work that I've done in the past, I've found that it's often like that on the set, where it's not whatever the money and the suits are doing, that they're not on the set generally, and they're just, that's the creative space.
Yeah, that's why it's fun, because when it comes down to it, it's just like making a college film project with your best friends.
Yeah, yeah. And so it was named Tales of the Code, Wedlocked, which sounded like a series title. Was it? Were you kind of hoping to do some more?
Yeah, that was my idea. That if we named it that, it would force us to keep making more, and that of course didn't play out. That nobody sort of got the clue there, but that was the intention.
I thought it was a good idea. So
Thank you.
Where did it come out? Because I'm trying to figure out how I missed it in the last 4 years. Where did it come out from?
It was released on the big old treasure chest version several years ago. The one, I don't know. It looked like a treasure chest, I think. It was like a literal treasure chest that had all the DVDs and Blu-rays.
Right. I remember when that came out. I already had all the films on DVD, so I didn't invest in it. So that's how I missed it. But that's really cool. So let's go back a little bit. I want to find out how you kind of came into the Pirates of the Caribbean world and how you got to know Gore and all that kind of stuff. But where do you come from originally? How did you get into directing and filmmaking?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just a kid from Flagstaff, Arizona. I was kind of like the kid in Super 8 that, felt a million miles away from Hollywood and just would get his friends together and make stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I was always a sort of an illustrator. I was always drawing. And so I luckily had a skill when I got here. I could combine my love of filmmaking with storyboard artistry.
Uh-huh.
And got hired out of school, luckily, working with great directors like Gore. When Gore was doing commercials, he was one of the first directors that I got hired to do storyboards for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, back when I was in my 20s. I think he was still in his 20s or 30s. And he did like the Budweiser frogs and these iconic commercials. And I probably did maybe 50 or 80 commercials for him, storyboarding. And so he and I got very comfortable creatively together. So when I then started directing commercials myself, Gore would call me up and say, I know you're directing now, but can you help me on this movie I'm doing?
Oh, okay.
So we did Mouse Hunt together. We did The Ring together.
Ooh,
we worked on The Mexican. Yeah. And then I was in the middle of directing a commercial and he called me. He said, you're not going to believe this. Jerry Bruckheimer wants to do $100 million version of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Uh-huh.
And I just said, I'm in.
Yeah, right. That's not a project you say no
crazy.
To. Yeah.
And you have to understand, like back then, everyone thought it was a terrible idea.
Sure.
Because making movies out of rides had a history of not working.
Yes. Thank you, Eddie. Eddie Murphy, Haunted Mansion.
All of that stuff, the Bear Jamboree
Right.
and all that stuff. And so people instantly were just rolling their eyes and saying, just a stupid money grab.
Yeah.
But I knew they had picked exactly the right guy.
Uh-huh.
Like they had no idea what they were getting into when Gore Verbinski was going to take over doing Pirates of the Caribbean. So I think he hired me the first week he got hired and we went on location scout together. And that first week, we just came up with all the iconic moments. Jack Sparrow arriving, and as his ship is sinking, he steps off. I remember Gore and I came up with that on the plane to the Caribbean.
Uh-huh. Which I liked that Wedlock sort of becomes almost a prequel to that scene right there.
Yeah, exactly. That Wedlocked was supposed to the twist of it was it actually happened before any of the movies began.
That's great. So you're doing location scouting, you're doing storyboarding and things like that. How long into the process is your work?
I worked on that very first one. I only worked on it about a month and it was the very, very first month.
Uh-huh.
So I did the first drawing of the Black Pearl. I did the first drawing of all the ships. I did the very first drawing ever of Jack Sparrow, of Elizabeth Swann, of the coins they're looking for, all that stuff. There was nobody else conceptualizing.
Uh-huh.
It was just me kind of taking a first stab at what the pirates would look like and what the gang would look like. This is before that Johnny Depp was even cast.
Okay.
We just had a very vague notion of what it was going to be. And so what Gore and I would do is we would talk about the feeling we had as kids watching like classic Disney movies,
right.
On the Wonderful World of Disney or whatever that show was on Sunday nights when we were like little kids.
Sure.
And this promise of, Treasure Island would come on or some classic Disney. And we said, that's the feeling we're going to try to evoke, that wonder and that sense of wish fulfillment. And so we just started at a very abstract level, trying to get that epic feeling of childhood wonder back.
That's interesting. Now that you mention it, I can actually mentally draw a line between that and something like the Davy Crockett films or Treasure Island, like you mentioned.
Exactly.
Yeah, from
Exactly.
a pacing standpoint and things, yeah, that absolutely makes sense.
Yeah, and if you look at it, like especially the first Pirates of the Caribbean right now, like it's so clearly shot on location. They're clearly in real sunlight,
Uh-huh.
in real water, and that's all very much like Treasure Island. Whereas opposed to almost every other movie today, everything is clearly shot on a set against a green screen.
Yep.
They didn't go to location. They're just in a fake world, and that's another reason why I loved working on movies with Gore, is because he goes to the real places and turns on the camera and shoots the real thing.
Yeah, and it makes such a difference, which of course we're seeing in the new Star Wars film and all that kind of stuff. That the lack of CGI is so refreshing. I just love it. And so you were involved with the first three Pirates films, right?
That's right. And the only thing I did on the fourth one is they needed some revisions to the map, so I kind of redrew some of that. Fountain of Youth imagery for the map.
Gotcha. Okay. Are you involved in the new one that they're shooting next year?
No.
Okay.
No. I wish them well.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how it comes out. To see if they can stretch it for one more film. I'm really intrigued by it. I hope. I have hope.
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, it's harder than people think. There's a special magic that has to come from a singular vision. And that will be the test of this one, to see if it feels like there's a singular vision or if it's just a merchandise commercial.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when you were doing some of those initial designs, did you go back and look at the rides and things for any inspiration, or were you just trying to maybe not touch on that quite as much?
No, we did for sure, because that was part of the genius of the script. Was, you remember, it had those moments that were specifically referencing the rides,
Sure.
with the guys, trying to get the key from the dog,
Right.
and everything. So that was very intentional to have these touchstones of 4 or 5 places that said, "Look, we acknowledge the ride. We know the ride is loved. We're showing that we love it too, and then we're going to do all these extra things to it." So I think that was very smart, and I don't take credit for that. I think that's really the writers and Gore realizing that we had to put that in there. I only rode the ride once, but then I was kind of more interested in what is it like being on a ship. How can we shoot ships to be interesting?
Uh-huh.
How can we shoot these islands? What are the actions that make this a swashbuckling tale of adventure? What are kind of the wild and weird action pieces that make it special?
Yeah. And so when you're going in and designing some of those initial concepts, what made it through in sort of an unaltered state, and what things got changed drastically from the way you were thinking about them?
That is a great question, because one of the weirdest experiences I had working on the movies was this feeling of seeing things that were so exactly what we talked about the first time that I couldn't believe it's actually happening in front of me. Like, I remember Gore and I were standing eating sandwiches in his office, talking about this 3-way sword fight in the second movie. And we're saying, and originally it was sort of in a treatment of, maybe there's a windmill. And I was saying, I don't think it should be a windmill. That kind of sounds like something I've seen in a movie before. Can we have something more, like, could it be a water wheel? And Gore said, yeah, a water wheel. But then the water wheel comes off and it rolls down into the jungle. And I said, yeah, and one of the guys is inside of it and 2 guys are on top of it. And we just kept sort of building and building on top of it like that. And the whole time I was thinking, they're never going to do this. This is crazy. At some point we are going to be told, no, we're just going to be told, like, this is not practical. This is too expensive. And then flash forward 2 years later, we're actually standing there in the middle of the Caribbean on the island of Dominica in the jungle. And there's the water wheel, and there's Johnny Depp inside, and there's Orlando and Jack Davenport. And it's all happening exactly the way we described it and exactly the way I drew it. And I could not believe that was possible. So purely from vision to execution.
That's really
It
cool.
was stunning. And it was the weirdest thing. It was the most similar to magic I've ever experienced, like where you think about something and then it becomes true right in front of your eyes.
That's so great. What kind of stuff didn't make it through, or made it through in some sort of drastically changed form?
Almost everything made it through. That's what's so crazy. And everything, very little was changed. I mean, the whole maelstrom, the two ships tipping toward each other, that's almost exactly the way I drew it. One of my things that I pitched Gore, we were on another location scout for the second movies, for the sequels. We were back down in the Caribbean. And I'd felt like I had gone, a while without sort of coming up with something truly crazy. And so we're in the back of a boat, kind of on a location scout in looking for lagoons. And I said, what about something where Jack's on a spit? And he gets stuck and he's like in the middle of a fight with some women throwing fruit at him. And then suddenly he looks like a shish kebab. And again, we just kept rolling with that, building and building on it, went right home and drew it. And then there it is in the movie, exactly the way we discussed it. It still boggles my mind that is possible. I can't even think of many things that didn't make it into the movie.
Oh, it's a tribute to your talent in that case.
I think it's a tribute to Gore's vision. Like when he knows he likes something, he is so stubborn about insisting that it happens. I think that's the key. He's not a director that keeps changing his mind.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Because, otherwise you can end up with sort of a weird hodgepodge of things that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I've worked on movies with that where the director keeps doubting himself or herself, and you'll come up with some great ideas and get all excited about it. And then a month later, they say, well, should we try something else? Like, okay, you want to try something else? And then it just keeps changing and you never get to really hone the one great idea. Right. It just kind of keeps sliding around.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So somewhere in the middle of all this pirate stuff, you two hatched the idea for Rango.
Yeah, that was along the way, Johnny Depp would do this weird lizard dance in the middle of takes, or between takes, I should say. And he kind of went into this lizard character, and we would joke about it. We would say, we should make that into an animated character. And I think Gore was kind of exhausted after the third one and would sort of fantasize about, wouldn't it be nice to make a movie just in your living room? And, have all the fun part, have just, all the creative part, the storyboarding and the designing, and basically making an animated movie. And so as soon as Pirates 3 opened and it made $8 billion, he called me up and he said, I think we should do that animated movie. I think now's the window of possibility where we could actually do that.
That's cool. And I really enjoyed Rango. I thought it was a strange film.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Again, that's it's right out of Gore's head and unfiltered by the studio.
Yeah, what was the sort of businessy background on that? How did it get made?
We had a little bit of funding to spend a year just working out of Gore's old house. It was me and Crash McCreary, who's the amazing conceptual artist and designer that did all those insane artwork for Pirates, all the skeleton crew and the Davy Jones crew. It was Gore and I writing the story along with screenwriter John Logan and Crash McCreary and our producer Adam Kramer, and just this small group of people for a year writing the story and creating it with some funding from Graham King. And then showed it to all the studios, and Paramount said, okay, we'll take a chance on this. It sounds absolutely insane, but we're going to give you a bunch of money.
That's cool. And who did the animation?
ILM.
ILM did, okay.
Our beloved effects house that did all the Pirates movies. They had never done a animated movie like this. They had never done a full feature. They did incredible effects work, trying to make things look photo real that had to match other scenes in a movie. but they had never done a start to finish animated movie, and we just knew that they were the best, and we wanted to work with them.
Yeah, and the animation in it is fantastic. And one of the things I noticed about that film is the pacing is very different from the average animated film these days. It's very deliberate. It's almost an old school type of pacing.
Yeah, it's strange, and we don't pretend to be knowledgeable about the making of traditional animated films. We just wanted to make a movie really that happened to be animated. So
Right.
it really doesn't follow the Pixar rules at all, and it doesn't follow the DreamWorks rules at all. It was just kind of a fever dream based on our experiences out in the desert and shooting pirates and a conglomeration of all those things from our past. You know, I'm from Arizona, and so there's a lot of desert imagery and issues of water and things that come out of that. And then Gore, of course, with his love of anything bizarre and dreamlike, that really affected it. There's a kind of a Hunter S. Thompson vibe that goes through the whole thing. So kind of just a mishmash of all these things that we were interested in, with this just story of a crazy lizard.
Yeah. And yeah, I really, you know what it strangely connected to in my brain? It was the old Jim Henson TV specials. As far as the pace and the speed of how it went, for some reason specifically, like Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas popped into my head.
Oh, that's hilarious! Yeah, I know that. I know that very well.
Yeah, and I just thought, oh, it's a very 70s, early 80s type of film, which I really enjoy. Not having everything come at you 1,000 miles a second.
Yeah, exactly. That was risky, and you know, the first act of Rango is so much longer than a traditional animated movie, but we kept watching it and thinking, I know we should, you know, if we're going to imitate other animated movies, we would change that pacing, but it just felt right for what we were doing. And so we took a chance, and luckily Paramount, you know, trusted us enough to do it our way.
Yeah, I like it. And so what are you working on these days? What's on the plate?
Oh my gosh. I finished a movie called Coherence last year. That was kind of this low budget mind bender that came out and kind of did very well in Nerdland. We got like the smart Doctor Who nerds of the world flocked to it. And so we got incredible response from that, and kind of became a minor cult hit. And so trying to build on that a little bit. I mean, would love to make another movie in that vein.
That's great. Now, I did see connected to your name a few mentions of a Fraggle Rock screenplay.
Oh, you know what? That was a couple of years ago. So yes, that we kind of did our pass, and I think, to be honest, several writers have come and gone on that, and I'm not sure who's doing it now, but I wish them all the best, because that's a very tricky one.
It is, and that's been a project that's been floating around for probably at least 15 years now in Hollywood. Yeah,
they can't quite figure out how to do it. Again, here's my take on it. It needs a singular vision, just like a Jim Henson or a Gore Verbinski. And if you don't have that, you're just making Smurfs.
Right.
And you shouldn't do it, to be honest.
No, we don't need any more Smurfs. Those are horrible.
Yes. So until they sort of agree to have a singular vision, I think that's going to be a very problematic project.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, Jim, this has been super fun. I really appreciate your time. What is where can people best find your work on the internet?
There's a little bit on jimbyrkit.com. There's some Pirates art, and there's some Rango art that you probably have not seen in the books. And if you're interested in a mind-bending thriller, please watch Coherence. It's available on Amazon Prime and iTunes and all those kinds of things.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'll make sure to link all that stuff up on the show notes for this. And yeah, like I said, this has been super fun. I'm glad we got a chance to talk.
Yeah, thanks so much. I hope people do get a chance to see Wedlocked, because it's kind of wacky, and everybody did fantastic job.
That's great. I will make sure of it. I'm gonna put that on the show notes as well.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks for doing this. I hope there's enough people that are still finding this interesting, because it was a labor of love. Everybody in the Pirates universe became very close and means a lot to us.
You know, Jim, I will tell you this before we finish up here. I've been doing this show for 3-4 months now, and the origin story that I get from everybody who has in this pirate community, who runs festivals or does costuming or does music or does, whatever they do within this pirate community, I get only one of 3 stories as their origin stories. One is they rode Pirates of the Caribbean, the ride, as a kid, and that got them hooked.
Right.
The second story is they just dug the history of pirates for some reason. They kind of got latched into that. And the third story is that they saw the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, and that got them started on this whole pirate jag. So there are really a lot of people in this community that, straight from your initial drawings, have now built businesses around this and really changed their lives and have a community of people that they love and accept. And I think that's the coolest thing. So your movies did that.
Oh, that's great. I mean, it's so glad to hear that, because when I was working on the map, the map itself took months to make. It's all hand drawn and hand painted. And I was thinking, is it worth doing this much work for a prop? And I kept thinking, there's going to be people that appreciate this. I just have to trust that there are people that care when you put care into something.
Yep. And those people are out there, and they are listening right now.
Yay! Thank you.
All right, Jim. Well, that was super fun. I hope we can talk again sometime.
Thanks so much, Phil.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Take care.
Bye-bye. And there it is, friends. That is my interview with Jim Byrkit. And you can find out more about Jim, and you can check out his films and his projects, and you can see the Wedlocked Pirates of the Caribbean short at jimbyrkit.com. His last name is spelled Byrkit, Byrkit. And it'll be linked up on underthecrossbones.com/025 too on the show notes. So you can just link over to it there as well. Now, my friends, not all pirates are the nice kind of dopey, drunky, sassy Johnny Depp kind of pirates that you see in Pirates of the Caribbean. And frankly, probably none of them were. But besides that, there are modern pirates, my friends, and they do not have braids in their hair. I don't think they do. Anyway, they might. I don't know. There's probably one out there somewhere. But today's pirates are digital pirates, and they are out to get your identity and your information and all that stuff. And when that is stolen, man, is that a pain in the butt. Seriously is. I've had it stolen. I've had it dealt with it, and it's not fun. And I don't want you to have to deal with it. So the way you avoid having your information and your identity stolen by the modern digital pirates is you get a LifeLock.com membership. It's really cheap. It's worthwhile. They go keep watch over all the dirty, ugly parts of the internet to make sure that your information is not being sold in those dirty, ugly parts. And it's real easy. You just get a membership. You can get 10% off if you go to underthecrossbones.com/lifelock. Very easy. You go through, it'll show you a page about what it's all about, and then you click start your membership, and that next page will show you the 10% off thing. So go check out underthecrossbones.com/lifelock and protect yourself. Got a freebie for you. Alexander Exquemelin. Oh man, that name is hard to say. Exquemelin had a book. He's dead, long dead. Yeah, it's contemporary from the golden age of piracy, and it is called The Buccaneers of America or Pirates of Panama. It's come out under both titles, and it is one of the seminal works of pirate history. He was there at the time writing some true stuff, probably some made up stuff, but it's a great book, and you should totally check it out. You can get it for free if you go to underthecrossbones.com and just click free ebook, or if you're out, you're jogging, or you're driving, or you're doing something else, you're at work, avoiding your work. Here's what you do with your little cell phone. You're going to text the word pirate and your email address. Text the word pirate space your email address to this number 94253. Send. Easy, right? 94253. Text the word pirate and your email address, and it will send you back a link to download the Pirates of Panama or the Buccaneers of America or whatever you want to call that book. It's okay. All right. We got some comedy and some music on the show today. So today, some comedy from John Romanoff, good buddy of mine from the East Coast, who's probably snowed in all weekend too, but very funny. John's a big dude, John Romanoff, big guy. He's going to talk about being a big guy at the gym. Very funny stuff. We also have a song today called Doses from a band called Hologram Sun out of the West Coast, out of Watsonville out here. It's kind of proggy, kind of metally, kind of punky. It's a good tune. You're going to totally dig it. So let's get into it. We got comedy from John Romanoff and a song called Doses from Hologram Sun. Here we go.
And I realize that's why they like fat people at the gym, because my gym has pizza parties and Tootsie Rolls. They want fat people to keep coming in. I realized on the elliptical I ran, I thought I was going to die. I was plowing through my workout. Not only was I sweating, but I was also providing the electricity for my entire portion of the gym. I had 4 lights going, 3 TVs. Hipster assholes were pulling up their Priuses behind me and jacking in. It's the pits. And it's $10 a month for the gym, but then you gotta get the personal trainer, and it's $400 every half hour with this 5'2" jacked little douche nozzle. Who never got laid in high school, so now all he does is lift weights and scream at fat people for a living. They just pay him to berate fat asses. No matter what you say, I just want to get a little healthier, maybe feel better about myself, maybe run around with my daughter a little more. What are your goals? Dude, I just want to see my dick, man. I just want to see my dick. You know, I miss it. It wasn't much, but it was mine, you know? I used to be able to see it whenever I wanted. Now I gotta use one of those mirrors they look for bombs under cars at the Olympics. You know?
That's it. That's our show for today, friends. If you want to find out more about Jim Byrkit, you can go to jimbyrkit.com. Again, that's Byrkit, Jim, spelled like Jim. If you want to find out more about John Romanoff, you can go look him up on Facebook, because John doesn't have a website. I'm going to yell at him about that. But if you look up John Romanoff on Facebook, you will find him and his funny. If you want to find out more about Hologram Sun, you can go to hologramsun.bandcamp.com. If you want to find out anything about me, you want to pick up my latest comedy special called Pretty From the Back, find out any of my tour dates, any of that kind of stuff, go to philjohnsoncomedy.com. If you get that chance, go leave that iTunes review for Under the Crossbones. Make it a nice one, and that'll be cool. That'll make the show more popular. For all the notes on today's show, go to underthecrossbones.com/025. I will catch you next week. Thanks for listening.